retiring with their salaries, the issue of revitalization fund, that was the first one that I mentioned about this report. So these other issues were there that were not implemented over time. So beyond this report, government has also failed in some other areas.
You say it's non-financial, but if professors are going to be retiring on their current salaries, I believe you're saying they should continue to take their salaries as pension? Is that what you're saying?
No, the law has settled that.
Okay.
There is the 2014 Pension Reform Act. What was needed was just the guidelines for operating, for implementing that law.
But that would also include money. I mean, wouldn't it also have financial considerations to it?
No, that was settled because the original condition of service of those people involved that.
Okay.
So it was nothing new.
Okay. So now you're saying that, in 2016, because government has not done anything since the initial 200 billion which they paid, ASUU went on strike again in 2016 as a warning strike for government to notice. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
If that is the case, government argues that they set up a negotiating team with ASUU headed by Mr. Wale Babalakin,
Dr. Wale Babalakin.
Yeah, SAN, and they believe that it was because they wanted to be able to reach an agreement with ASUU in terms of how they could reach this agreement or implement this agreement in the light of new economic realities. No. Is that right?
No, that's not correct. There are two legs to this issue. The first one is the agreement itself, which will be reviewed from time to time. Part of the provisions of the 2009 agreement is that agreement will be reviewed every 3 years. So that agreement was not reviewed. We called for that 2012. Government rather went into all this investigation about needs.
Which agreement? Is it
the
2009?
It was due for review in 2012.
Okay.
It was not. So the pressure to review that agreement itself was there.
But would you not argue that needs had already overtaken the 2009 agreement?
There are separate things. Needs does not cover all aspects of the agreement.
I see.
So that was there, and that is what eventually the Babalakin Committee is addressing.
Which one?
The
2009.
The agreement itself. So that is what the Babalakin Committee was set up to address.
So what particular part?
So what we're doing, what necessitated the ongoing strike now is the implementation of the understanding we reached after the 2016 warning strike. We moved to the National Assembly. National Assembly intervened. We brought out all the 7, 8 areas of dispute that were lingering. And government agreed to do certain things which were time-bound. Let me give you the example of end academic allowances. Government said before they would release a kobo, government will have to do its forensic audit, and that will be completed within 6 months. We didn't have a problem with that. You get the point. So 8 months after, that was not done. So that was time-bound.
Which particular issue have you gone on strike for now? Is it for the needs report or the 2009 agreement?
No, the 2009 agreement is a separate issue. We don't have a problem with Babalakin Committee for now. So we are discussing with Babalakin Committee. In fact, we are meeting next week. So what we are saying is that there were areas that were actionable in our interaction last year following the warning strike. The warning strike was to draw government's attention to areas on which we had agreed and government agreed to implement within time frame.
Emanating from which particular report?
Both the needs assessment and the 2009 agreement. But that was not to stop aspects that were pending. For instance, when you talk about paying lecturers fraction of their salary, it's not something to be renegotiated. When you talk of registration of Nupenco, which had been settled, that is our PFA. That was not going to be a new issue.
So this strike is, sorry to interrupt you, sir, this strike is more about the conditions of service for members of staff of ASUU.
Both conditions of service as well as revitalization. Because issues of revitalization, which came out of the MOU of 2013, I just told you, 200 billion to start with. Let me correct, it's not 250 billion, it's 220 billion for subsequent years. And that will give us the 1.3 trillion. So that was settled. So government started and stopped. that became an issue.
What do you say to those who say that, 220 billion every year and as we currently speak is not realistic? It's not a realistic demand on the part of ASUU.
The realistic thing we're talking about here, how many years have passed since 2013? You see, if you cannot do all, in every agreement there is always provision for review. If you cannot do all, call those involved, tell them this is how far we can go. And it's only going to be fair if people agree that for 4 years that we have not insisted that this thing must be faithfully implemented, we have been generous enough. And it is not about fund being available. It is about seeing education as a priority. That has always been our own argument. That if government sees education as a priority issue, it will be given the deserved attention.
So is ASUU then willing to negotiate with government?
No, we have already discussed this. We have discussed this now because we have said, well, 4 years have passed. For instance, we calculated this and put it at 825 billion as outstanding. But we are not insisting that all that must be paid. So if, for instance, we have said, well, at least show a commitment by releasing 1 year, 4 years after the first release, I think we have been open enough.
Because yesterday, you said you did not show up at that meeting because you've already submitted a new proposal to the federal government.
No, they are not.
And there was nothing to talk about.
No, they are not new proposals. Let me correct that aspect. They are not new proposals. Government gave us its position on every issue that we reached an understanding on last year. And we now said, well, these positions you have given us, we have to go back and consult our members. Because for every action in ASUU, you must go back to branches. The branches will have to consider the decision. So we all took that decision collectively. The decision to accept or reject anything must go back to them. And that was what we did. So in this instance, we have gone there and they have told us that, well, these conditions you have given us, this and this, on every issue, this is our position, this is our position, this is our position. For instance, let me give you this illustration.
I'm so sorry. I'm afraid that we're out of time. We're totally out of time. But we know that this is an ongoing conversation.
Yes.
And we know that this, education is something, especially education, yes, at all levels. But a basic, intermediate or tertiary education is definitely something that government must prioritize. But we have to thank you most kindly for sparing time to come on Sunrise Daily this morning. And we hope to continue our conversation in the coming days. And we wish you very fruitful deliberations with government. Professor Biodun Ogunyemi is the president of ASUU. I think the abbreviation would do there. And Sunrise Daily will continue in just a moment. Please stay with us.